The Supreme Court has struck down the law banning doctor-assisted suicide.
Those who aren't near their natural death now have the right to seek medical assistance in dying.
The federal government is seeking to delay a controversial extension of its medically assisted dying legislation. The expansion would see eligibility include people whose sole condition is a mental health disorder. But
if they do it, Canada could become one of the most liberal countries in the world when it comes to euthanasia.
On February 6, 2015, the Supreme Court of Canada made a landmark decision in the case of Carter v. Canada, which would change the landscape of end-of-life care in the country forever. In their ruling, the court removed the criminal provisions that previously made physician-assisted suicide, otherwise known as medical assistance in dying, or MAiD, illegal. This then allowed Canadians with, quote, unbearable suffering, unquote, to have MAiD as an option to end their lives. Since this legalization, the amount of Canadians that have opted to use MAiD has increased, with just over 10,000 Canadians using it in 2021. In this podcast, we will explore the history, controversies, and personal stories surrounding MAiD in Canada. From the Emerge Project, this is Alexandra Ellison, and you're listening to Drawing the Line, which is an opportunity to deep dive into topics of vulnerability and death. Drawing the Line is a podcast on the reality of what MAiD looks like in Canada. Through this podcast, we will hear experiences across the spectrum to discuss the future of life and death in our home and native land. It's a timely story with serious repercussions, and as the Liberal government plans to adjust legislation for MAiD in March of 2024 to expand assisted suicide for those applying solely with mental health issues, big questions arise. In today's episode, I headed an hour and a half out of Toronto to the town of Stratford, Ontario, with a population of 31,000, to speak with a woman who has faced chronic illness for most of her life. We'll hear her story and how she plans to use MAiD in the future. I arrived at Diane Sim's house late in the afternoon. Grateful to go inside a warm house after walking around her neighborhood for a few minutes while we waited for Sim's nurse to finish her checkup.
Hi, Diane's nurse, come on in. Hi, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
The first thing I noticed was a long wheelchair ramp at the entrance of the doorway of her small yet inviting cottage-like home. Sims greeted myself and my production assistant, Ojuani, at the door and let us inside. How are you?
Hello.
Wow, this is a very cool place.
Thank you.
Did you collect all of this stuff in here?
Oh, yes, and I love art. Hi.
This is Ojuani. Instantly, I was captivated by the vibrant paintings, photos, and art that covered the walls of Sim's house. It looked like an art gallery.
Set up my microphone maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it in the kitchen?
Sure, if we could, just because I had to open up my computer so I can set it. Yeah, great. Oh, yeah, you're a journalist, right? So
Yeah, and turn the background music.
Sims has worked as a journalist for over 40 years. She still writes today.
Was gonna ask that. Okay. Just have to go down. This wheelchair is only 2 weeks old to me, so I'm still learning tricks.
yeah. It looks pretty fancy with the up and down in a sense.
Yeah, when it goes back and forward.
Yeah.
Sims is unable to walk anymore as she has multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis, or MS, is a chronic and often disabling disease that affects the central nervous system, which includes the brain and the spinal cord. In MS, the immune system mistakenly attacks the myelin, a protective covering that surrounds nerve fibers in the CNS, causing inflammation and damage to the myelin and nerve fiber. The symptoms of MS can vary widely depending on the extent and location of the damage to the nervous system. Some common symptoms